What's unique about my situation this year is that it's my 50th year of teaching. My top priority as a teacher now is to provide a safe and positive and happy classroom for my first graders. I try to build their self-esteem. I try to encourage their continued enthusiasm for learning so that they do continue to grow. We collect compliments. We collect kind words and kind deeds. We start every day in a positive way and we share our smiles along the way. I really enjoy it when I can watch my students interact with one another in a respectful way. The students respond to sincerity and they can see that you love what you're doing and that you care about them. So show them you care about them. Try to reach out to every single child every single day with something positive. Our school motto is Raritan Valley is a good place to grow. And I feel that's not only true for my students, but for me as well. I'm truly Hazlet proud.
I love teaching in general, but I don't have a content passion. I'm here for the kids. That's what I'm passionate about, is making a difference in their lives and helping mold them, into who they want to be and whatever they want to do with their lives. In second grade, I had Mrs. Seitz, who was the teacher that was like, you should really be a teacher one day, Kelly. She always made us feel so important, and she always made learning fun, and I think that's like what I've always kept in me, is making sure that my students feel valued and my students are having fun with what they're doing. My fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Fisher, was so inspiring when it came to learning about reading and just applying it to what we were interested in. You have to build relationships with your students, and that's the biggest thing. Everything else will fall. If your students know that they can trust you and that you love them, it's so much easier throughout the day. When they know that you hold high expectations of them and you believe that they're going to achieve them, that's what makes them successful and it helps them to grow as students.
I was in a 5-year program at Rowan for elementary and special education. They took us to an out-of-district placement, it was called Bankbridge, to go see a special education school. I walked out of that building knowing exactly what I wanted to do the rest of my life. The secret to being a good teacher is flexibility, because you just never know what you're going to walk into coming a day. I mean, in any grade, someone might just come in, not eating and scream all morning. We have no idea what's going to happen. And having a sense of humor to let those things not get to you. You have to be able to deal with it and just walk right through it. There's nothing better to see a difference and a change in a little child and how they work. So I have a kid that comes in and doesn't talk a word, and then they leave me in 2 years, after they're with us for 2 years, and they can talk and they communicate with us. So it's just like, there's nothing better than that.
I teach for a variety of reasons. I teach because I love learning, and I would like the children to love learning too. It will help them to discover who they are, to find their own voices, to identify their strengths, and then to embrace them, and to also face their struggles that they may have and to learn from them. My father influenced me to become a teacher. My father was a teacher in elementary school for many years, and I was always with him. We went to the schools together. I would help him during the summer, set up his classroom, and it seemed like a natural progression. And here, years later, my dad has since passed away, and I still find myself saying things like, oh, what would Dad do? And I know that I feel comfortable with that situation. I feel like my dad is always with me. I've learned that things resonate in your life later on. So as a teacher, you're not sure when they may pick things up, but you are helping forming their journey. We have a unique opportunity to be part of that. And as a teacher, I think if we're listening, if we're observing, and we're being flexible, but yet we need to be consistent, to me, that is the key to being a good teacher.
I absolutely love what I do. Every activity that I do, it gets better each and every year. Every kid brings a new experience every time, and it is just such a rewarding opportunity for me to have. There's not a minute that goes by that I don't love what I do. You have to have the passion for the content that you're teaching, especially in music, because it's such an emotional thing. You have to make emotional connections to what you're doing. And for a lot of these kids, this is their outlet. And for me, to be able to help them grow that love for music and that appreciation for the arts is my end goal as a teacher.
Being able to see my students, whether they are having difficulty with material, or whether it's remembering a play or certain activity in phys ed, that they can be able to learn from those mistakes and It's not about whether you get an A or not, it's did you give your best effort? And that's all I really look for is, hey, do the best you can. I want to make sure that all my students know that I care about them and that I want what's best for them. And from my perspective, I see that I get more out of the kid. They know that I care about them and I want them to be successful and I want them to do well.
Being a good teacher is very challenging because you're making decisions all day long. You have to be very prepared, organized, but on the other hand, you have to be flexible. You have to listen to your students to try to understand where they're coming from, what their lives are like, because they have a life outside of school and we have to be aware of that. I think communication is very important. We have to communicate with the students, with our colleagues, with the parents and administrators. They're starting at this age group between 10 and 12, forming their own opinions, learning about the world, and I like to listen to what their take is on the world.
My why is to pay it forward by making a difference in the lives of these children each and every day. So I find that there's not just one secret to being a good teacher, there's many. Get to know your students, know their interests, show compassion, and be the role model that you want your students to become one day. Be able to laugh at yourself and just to really teach from the heart and soul. And lastly, to be open-minded and always have a plan B.